So what we're going to be doing is we're going to start using the angles we just learned about in task 4 and apply them to triangles. So for starters, remember that all of the angles in a triangle have to add up to make 180 degrees. That's going to be the most important thing. When we look at triangles, there are two types of angles. An interior angle is an angle that is on the inside of a triangle. So if you look here, 64 is an interior angle, 45 is an interior angle. This guy, an exterior angle, is an angle that is on the outside of a triangle. So here, X would be an exterior angle because it's touching the triangle, but it's not inside of the triangle. So let's work at solving this guy. If I look here, anytime I see a triangle, 99% of the time what I want to do is I want to say that those three angles have to add up to make 180. So I'm just going to put a little question mark here because they didn't label it. So I know that 64 plus 45 plus question mark has to equal 180. If I add up all those angles, it makes 180. And from here, it's just solving. 64 plus 45, I notice that they're like terms. So this makes 109 plus question mark equals 180. If I subtract out the 109 from both sides, I get that the question mark angle equals 72. So I'm actually going to replace this guy. I know that this angle right here makes 72 degrees. And that's really important because I notice that here, these two angles right here make a straight line. And if we remember from task 4, the very last set of notes that we did, angles that make a straight line are supplementary. In other words, they add up to be 180 as well. So in other words, x plus 72 makes 180. And I can just solve this equation. Minus 72 from over here. And I get that x equals 108. And it's that, right? It is a lot of noticing, looking for triangles, looking for things that equal 180. If I look at this next problem, there are letters involved here, but that's okay. This process is still going to be the same. So I'm actually going to start the same way. I see a triangle. And anytime there is a triangle, I know that they're going to add up to be 180. And I'm probably going to get some x's left in it, and that is okay. So I'm going to put my question mark back. So I know that 25 plus x plus 15 plus question mark is 180. So 25 plus x plus 15 plus question mark equals 180. Now this is going to feel a little bit weird, but I want to get this question mark by itself. So I'm going to start the same way as last time. I notice that 25 and 15 are like terms. So if I add those two together, I get 40 plus x plus question mark equals 180. I'm going to move the number over, so I'm going to minus 40 from both sides, because then these will cancel. So I get x plus question mark equals 140. Now here's the weird part. We said we want to get question mark by itself. We want to know what this angle is, which means I have to move the x. If you remember, there's always a 1 in front of an x, and the opposite of 1x is minus 1x. I'm just going to move this over. Now you'll notice I can't put it under the 140, right? This guy has an x, this guy does not. So I'm going to write it off to the side. They're not like terms, so they don't combine, but that doesn't mean I can't do it. So I have that the question mark angle, this guy right here, is 140 minus 1x. So I solved the triangle, but it asked us for what x was. So I noticed something else now. I notice that these two angles are supplementary. They make a straight line, right? There's my straight line right there. This angle plus this angle makes that straight line. So I can say that these two angles added up make 180. So 140 minus 1x, right? This angle right here, plus this angle right here. 3x minus 10 make 180. They are supplementary angles. So I can do the same thing. I see some like terms I can combine. I see 140 minus 10. That makes 130. Just to save some space, I also see that negative 1x plus 3x makes positive 2x. And it equals 180 because we didn't change that. I can subtract 130 from both sides. So I get 2x equals 50. Divide by 2, and I get x equals 25. It really is a lot of that. It is looking for a triangle, solve the triangle, and then if there's an exterior angle, you know that they have to be supplementary. If I look down to this very last problem, the air test loves these problems, and it's only difficult because they don't actually give you the triangle. You have to draw it yourself. It says in triangle DEF. So that means we need to draw a triangle, and the corners need to be called DEF. It doesn't really matter where D, E, and F go because it didn't draw the picture for you. So as long as you put them on the corners, you're going to be okay. It says the measure of angle D is x minus 6. Doesn't really matter if you put the parentheses or not. The measure of angle E, which is this guy, is 3x minus 16. And the measure of angle F is 7x plus 4. And it asks, what is the value of x? Well, I see a triangle. Anytime you see a triangle, you know that all three angles added up together make 180. So that's this guy plus this guy plus this guy. So x minus 6 for angle D plus 3x minus 16 plus 7x plus 4 has to make 180. If you add all three of them up, you get 180. So I'm going to do my same thing. I'm going to look for like terms, common terms, and I'm going to combine them. I have 1x plus 3x plus 7x. That's going to give me 11x. And just to save some space, I'm going to do this other bit at the same time. I've got a negative 6 minus 16 plus 4, which is negative 18. Equals 180. I can add 18 to both sides. So I get 11x equals 198. Divide by 11. And I get that x equals 18. Now in this case it said what is the value of x, so I am done. But just as a hypothetical, what if I asked what is the measure of angle E? Now that's a little bit different, right? Here I'm just looking for what is x. Here I'm asking for what is E. Now, this is the same bit that we did in the last task. I'm going to take what E is. I know that E is 3x minus 16. But if you notice over here, I know what x is, so I have to plug that back in. So I've got 3. Instead of x, I want to put 18 minus 16. That's really a Desmos question. Put that into Desmos, see what you get. 3 times 18 minus 16 is 38. So I know that angle E is 38 degrees.